Your electric bill didn't spike because you suddenly flipped on more lights or cranked up the heater. It rose because you've been charged for something invisible, something misunderstood. Right now, in your home there, waiting silently, is a device that you already own and never needed to install. One that holds the key to slashing your monthly costs by 30 to 50%. Not by changing providers, not by adding solar panels, not by swapping out appliances. The secret lies in a fundamental misunderstanding your utility never bothered to clarify. Think about your meter spinning even when you're sure every appliance is off. That's not a mistake. It's a hidden charge that creeps up unnoticed. Heating and cooling alone make up over half your bill. Yet what's truly consuming your money isn't just the heat or the cold. It's the way your appliances draw power, often in ways you never consciously observe. This isn't speculation, it's physics. Every device in your home draws energy in two ways: real power, which does actual work like lighting a bulb or running a fan, and reactive power, which creates the electromagnetic fields those devices need to function. Here's the catch. Your electric meter measures these two things bundled together into a single figure, called apparent power, and prices that total as one. What does this mean for you? You're paying for energy you can't directly see or even fully understand. Within that jumble of electrical consumption, there's one crucial factor that determines whether your efforts to save energy actually reduce your bill or simply vanish into hidden fees buried deep in the utilities pricing maze. The electricity statement you receive doesn't show reactive power as a separate line item. It's hidden. So when you think you're reducing usage, that saving might not meaningfully affect your costs at all. Let's ground this with numbers. The average homeowner pays about 18 cents per kilowatt hour. Most use around 865 kilowatt hours each month, translating to roughly $155. Over a year, that's nearly $2,000, climbing about 6% annually. Yet, most people never control the biggest drivers of that bill because they're blind to how their appliances draw power in unpredictable bursts, not the steady, constant drain they assume. Instead of revealing this to consumers, the industry steers you towards solar panels, generators, or batteries, solutions pitched as the fix. But these expensive options overlook the real leverage already inside your home. Understanding your electrical load itself. It's not the equipment that's the problem. It's never having been shown how to read the data your meter already collects, the subtle dance of power demand that determines what you pay. Your appliances don't sip electricity steadily. They gulp in bursts. Every time the air conditioner kicks on, or the fridge cycles, or even when devices sit idle but still draw phantom energy. That invisible draw, known as reactive power, silently inflates your bill. Until you demand clarity on what your meter is actually counting, you're locked into this cycle, paying more without any extra usage, without real control. And that is the part most people never notice. The bill is not only about what your appliances do while they are running, it is also about the violence of the start. A refrigerator can sit there humming at about 700 watts and look harmless, but the moment the compressor kicks in, it can jump to roughly 3,500 watts for about 2 seconds. Not once in a blue moon, around 12 times a day. That means the meter is not just tracking a quiet background load. It is catching repeated bursts over and over every day and folding all of them into what you owe. Now scale that up to HVC. You may think of it as a steady 3,500 watt machine, something that simply holds a temperature in the background. But at startup, it can surge to around 6,000 watts. That spike lasts only seconds, yet seconds are enough. The meter records it in real time, every transition, every surge, every startup event. None of it appears as a neat little line item on the bill, but all of it still gets priced into the total. So the trap is simple. You assume you are paying for steady usage. In reality, you're also paying for the hidden behavior inside those brief spikes. The appliance can look calm from the outside and still cost more because of what it does in the first instant. And this is where the math gets cruel. A device can seem efficient when you watch it casually, but if it starts hard, cycles often, and keeps repeating that pattern all day, the total demand climbs without ever looking dramatic in the moment. That is why the bill feels larger than the usage you remember. You are not paying only for what stays on. You are paying for what happens in seconds. And those seconds are almost invisible unless you know how to read the load. From there, the picture gets even harsher, because the same logic applies to the loads in your home that are not even trying to do useful work all the time. Some of them exist just to maintain a condition. A water heater can burn about 3 kilowatt hours per day, which becomes more than 1,000 kilowatt hours a year, simply to keep water hot whether you use it or not. The HVAC system keeps holding its set temperature. The refrigerator keeps pulling power to maintain internal cooling even when the door never opens. That means a large part of the bill is not tied to a visible action. It is tied to maintenance, to persistence, to the cost of keeping a state alive. And once you understand that, the bill stops looking like a mystery. It starts looking like a measurement problem. That is the trap most households never see until the bill arrives. A device can be off and still cost you money every single day. The television in standby is a tiny leak, maybe 1 to 5 watts. Harmless, right? Then you look at the cable box, and the number gets uglier, 20 to 30 watts, nonstop. That adds up to more than 260 kilowatt hours a year, around $47, for something nobody is even watching. Multiply that across a home and the picture changes fast. The average house is sitting on about 40 devices in standby, pulling a combined 61 watts around the clock. That is 534 kilowatt hours a year, roughly $96, disappearing into equipment that is effectively doing nothing. And that is where the wealth logic becomes clear. The system does not only charge you for use, it charges you for maintenance, for waiting, for readiness, for the silent background state of your own home. You pay to keep machines awake so they can be convenient later, while the meter keeps moving now. It is a perfect arrangement if you are the utility. Less so if you are the one reading the bill. The good news is that this part is brutally simple. A power strip is not fancy, but it cuts the draw to 0 when you switch it off. A 12-watt $20 smart strip can do the same thing without relying on memory. A programmable timer, often around $8, can push a dishwasher or other load into the cheaper hours automatically. No heroic discipline, no lifestyle makeover. Just control the moment when energy is used instead of letting the clock decide for you. Because the clock is where the next layer hides. Electricity is not one flat price. In peak hours, the rate can hit about 40 cents per kilowatt hour. Off-peak, it can fall to around 12 cents. Same energy, different hour, different bill. That is a 3-to-1 spread for doing the exact same job. Run the dishwasher at night, and one cycle costs less. Run laundry on the weekend instead of weekday peaks, and the savings can be around 40%. Nothing about the appliance changed. Only the timing did. That is the real divide. Some people own equipment. Others own the schedule around the equipment. And in modern utility pricing, schedule ownership is worth more than most people realize. Most people never stop to check the hidden baseline load quietly draining money from their wallets every minute. But if you log into your utilities portal and download the detailed interval data, you get the full picture. A continuous timeline showing exactly how your household consumes electricity, second by second. It's not an estimate. This is raw, measured consumption recorded directly from your meter, revealing the silent drain of standby power even when everything seems off. Take this baseline, usually hovering between 200 and 400 watts for an average home. It represents the power your devices draw simply by being plugged in or in standby mode. In optimized setups, this baseline can drop below 100 watts. That difference isn't small. For example, reducing baseline from 300 to 80 watts translates to nearly 2,000 kilowatt hours saved annually, a savings of about $340 on your electric bill. This is no hypothetical gain. It's a clear, actionable reduction you can measure. What's critical to realize is your utilities revenue depends entirely on your consumption. As you reduce your usage, their income drops. There's no incentive for them to actively guide you to lower your bill. The system is designed to reward continued consumption, not optimization on your behalf. That's the reality behind the numbers most households overlook. When Texas faced a catastrophic grid failure for over 6 days, the households that managed to keep essential systems running weren't lucky. They were prepared. They had mapped their power load tiers precisely. The essential baseline, keeping critical devices operating, the critical comfort layer for limited heating or cooling, and the non-essential loads that could be shut off immediately. Those without this understanding tried to run everything at once, tripping their backup generators and shutting down completely within hours. To take control, start small but deliberate. Your first action, spend just 20 minutes downloading your detailed load profile. Identify your true baseline and peak draws, not guesses, but verified numbers. Then reduce or unplug any device contributing to phantom loads or unnecessary standby draw. It's a mechanical, unglamorous step. No sweeping strategy, just one clear action that severs the silent drain pulling your money down every month. This tiny mechanical adjustment, staring hard at your consumption data, choosing one baseline load to cut, is the key to breaking free from the invisible wealth grinder embedded in your house's wiring. When you remove that single tail of wasted energy, your bill shrinks noticeably, aligning what you pay with what you actually use. The rest of the system will continue as before, but with one huge difference. You've stopped paying for power you never really consumed. And that is the part most people never see until the bill arrives and the damage is already done. The real risk is not that one appliance is expensive. The real risk is that you never separated the essential load from the waste, so you kept paying for noise and calling it normal. A home under pressure does not fail all at once. It fails in layers. First the standby draw, then the phantom load, then the peak pricing you never noticed because you never looked at the shape of the day. That is why the interval data matters so much, not because it is clever, because it is honest. 15-minute readings do not care what you assume. They show when the demand spikes, when it sits idle, when the same machine keeps pulling money long after it should have gone quiet. Once you see that pattern, you stop treating the electric bill like a mystery and start treating it like a map. And a map gives you something the utility never will, a place to begin. So the goal is not to chase some fantasy of free energy or instant savings. It is much smaller and much more useful than that. Open the portal, pull the load profile, look for the highest draw device, check whether you are measuring reality or just guessing. Then cut one unnecessary source at a time. That is how the leak closes. That is how the system starts to breathe again, not with a miracle, with visibility. Because once you can see where the money is being burned, you can decide what stays on, what gets trimmed, and what no longer deserves your payment. And that is the real advantage here. Not bigger promises, but a little more control, a little more margin, and a little less dependence on a system that only works when you never look too closely.